Hello, my name is Kelsey McGee. Picture this. You're on a boat for a day of fishing, and as you gaze out onto the water, you notice a plastic bottle floating. And as you gaze at the bottle, you realize how much trash you've been seeing lately out in the water. Suddenly, you get a nibble, and your mind shifts to reeling in the fish. Unfortunately, after you catch the fish, you realize that you cannot keep it because of fish consumption laws due to water pollutants in the nearby area. But what's an advisory, you may say? According to research conducted by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control, or DHEC for short, in an article on scdhec.gov from 2017, a fish consumption advisory is a warning on certain water bodies and certain fish species in those water bodies that are tested to tell you how much, if any, are safe to consume. These fish consumption advisories are caused by water pollutants that humans are allowing to enter in the watershed. Pollutants like mercury, lead, trash or waste, sediment, runoff, sewage, pesticides are affecting the water quality. So how exactly are these pollutants entering the water? Well, most of them come from chemical waste, pesticide and groundwater runoff, leaks in underground storage tanks, and more, according to an article on www.americangeosciencesinstitute.org titled, How Does Water Become Polluted? These pollutants affect the water by creating algae, entering the system of aquatic animals, and even killing off some of the species that live there. This is where DHEC will step in to assure that you are not harming yourself by consuming these hazardous toxins that fish are consuming. Let's take a look at this diagram. This diagram represents water pollution. So, as it says over here, chemicals, detergents, wastewater are coming from the factory, and that's basically their waste pond. And then it's seeping through underground and moves into oceans, and that adds to the already polluted ocean water that you see. And then from farms, runoff causes animal waste, fertilizers, pesticides to run off into water too. And then when it evaporates, it goes into the air and clouds, and it comes back down as rain, and then just keeps cycling over and over again. Make sense? After interviewing Chad Altman, a fisheries biologist with DHEC, and I quote, I hope to promote the fish consumption advisories by regularly attending local fishing tournaments, along with just simply stopping people on their boat while they're on the water, or stopping them when they're putting into the water, or getting out of the water, or just docking, and just saying, hey, are you aware that there are fish consumption advisories right here in this lake where you're about to go fishing or where you're about to go swimming? And do you realize that there are signs right here where you're standing? Have you ever even noticed them? And I was surprised to hear that most people don't even realize that there's signs up that say fish consumption advisories, look at dhec.org or dhec.gov to find which ones are affected. In addition to talking to Chad Altman, the fisheries biologist, I watched an ABC News 13 report from last year. Federal government issues advice about eating fish during pregnancies from 2017 that spoke upon harmful fish consumptions that are harming locals in New York. One of the newscasters brought up the fact that maybe if we put them in grocery stores where people buy fish or their meats from, they would be more aware of what was going on, and they could maybe be more aware of what they're fishing for and what they can and cannot keep. But it's not put into play. Americans became aware of what was going on before DHEC started conducting their research on fish consumption, and they created the Clean Water Act in 1972. According to an article on EPA.gov titled History of Clean Water Act. The Clean Water Act of 1972 was put in place by the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, to regulate pollutant discharges in the United States water bodies and eventually putting further regulations on construction, fertilizers, and water quality. Which leads me into my first new change in the Clean Water Act. There should be a change made to the Clean Water Act by adding additional requirements not only on construction management but on the general public as well. These additional requirements include requiring that a buffer is put in place to prevent further runoff or stormwater runoff or even just trash from construction sites getting blown into the waters. So that way it's letting the water be able to live naturally and be able to expand if needed so there's not flooding effects. And then as mentioned in an article in National Geographic magazine, Freshwater Pollution 101, it says that some cities are promoting green infrastructure by adding gardens or even green roofs to prevent water runoff. So the green roofs will collect the water and the water will seep into the soil, and instead of it running off the building and causing toxins to go down into further water bodies, it's just staying up there in the soil as to make a green roof. And this leads me to my second additional requirement, which is to require that construction crews for infrastructure be required by law to put in filters on or near the construction site and a permanent one for the infrastructure to prevent waste, fertilizers, rain runoff, and from entering the nearby watershed. Many are opposed to the Clean Water Act as they feel that it hinders their daily life, requires extra work and money into their own infrastructures that they feel shouldn't be implemented. But many don't understand that one small change in their personal lives could change the water quality, water pollution problems forever and further help conserve aquatic ecosystems. According to an article in National Geographic magazine titled, "Why Do Seabirds Eat Plastic?" it estimates out 8 million tons of plastic a year going to the ocean. In another article in National Geographic, Straw Wars, they advocate to ban straws and further implement regulations on plastic use. So how can you make a difference? Anytime you're outside and see a piece of trash blowing in the wind or plastic or anything, instead of walking by it or just ignoring it and pretending you don't see it, which is what I do most of the time, next time you should decide to pick it up and throw it away in the nearby trash can. That way it doesn't go into the bodies of water and then return it, and then in return go into the fish that you were trying to consume for your daily diet. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you will take it to heart.